hour, maybe a bit over.
We're good, man. Honestly,
Awesome.
let it fly.
Awesome.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Just wait for that. Mute that. All right. All right, guys. Here we are for a very exciting episode 159. A guy we've wanted to get on the show for quite some time. And he's finally here. And it was Bono that screwed this up before, and it was partly my fault for not paying attention. But look, I suppose if someone's going to interrupt a podcast, Bono, it's fair enough. But anyway, we have Dr. Tommy John here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. And I guess I've got to start this off with a question from my mum, because my mum, she's a big supporter of my brother and I. And apologies for Angus not being here. He's a bit crook today. He's a bit sick. Mum messaged me. She goes, I'm super excited for the Tommy John interview. And I got her under spinal hygiene. So mum is nearing her late 50s now. And I'm going to read out her exact message because you're the first guest she's ever deemed excited by. So that's compliments to yourself.
That's pretty okay.
And,
all right.
And this is 158 episodes, so we're probably at about 150.
I know. I was just thinking that. I'm like, wait, out of 159, this is pretty good.
So,
all right. Okay.
Mum goes, I'm pretty excited about Dr. Tommy John. Ask him how he came to develop the spinal hygiene movements. Are they for everyone? And is it normal to experience a bit of dizziness when mum does so shoot the full roll forward and then into full extension? So 3 questions there straight off the back, straight in the deep end.
All right, dude. So those are amazing questions. First of all, I applaud you for even experimenting and going into the movements. That's awesome. Step number 1. Implementation, just trying stuff. Yeah. And I think personal experimentation is like the greatest research project ever. It's just you going into it. So kudos to you for doing that. And these questions are great. How I came up with it, I was sitting in chiropractic school at 32 years old. So I went back to school, closed down my shop, went into massive debt, put my home up for rent, like totally followed my heart. Putting all these things in performance and healing, I wanted to level myself up a little more and go to the system that controls all systems. So I went to chiropractic school for the nervous system. And we're sitting in there and we would always test joint ranges of motion. We learned all joints how to test active and passive range of motion. And we regurgitate these numbers and these degrees. I don't do any of them in my office for regurgitation, but they would identify pathology based on range of motion sometimes. So I'm sitting here and I'm always all about movement. You guys know this, everybody knows this. And I'm like, if healthy is that range of motion, what if somebody was limited there and that meant not healthy, which is kind of foolish to say, but that's fine to just show that there's something going on. What if we just work so hard on getting those ranges of motion back to the greatest degrees that we would measure? And the only way to do that is to do them actively, to move them. And so I was game for it. So I took all the spinal moves and I started doing actually in my whole orthopedic test book. It was this lab manual that is basically all of chiropractic school. It's like hundreds and hundreds of tests, hundreds of range of motion, hundreds of indicators, and they test you on boards. I use none of it today in practice, but I go through and I did as my training, I would do every range of motion on every part of the body 100 times. It took me like 2.5 hours to do 100 reps of every range of motion test. And I was crushed. My body was stimulated. I was tired. I felt good. So then I started to just keep doing those. Well, then they just became so extensive from the ankles to the hands to the wrists to the elbows. I'm like, well, I'm going to do some other stuff, but the spine ones are pretty amazing. And so I started to experiment with range of motion. All they are range of motion tests that an orthopedic would do, but we just do them hundreds and hundreds of times for minutes on end, multiple times a day. And as you improve those, your tests improve, so your health should improve. Now, why would I think the spine is more important or more of a focus than a wrist or elbow or a knee? It's because it houses the most important communication system in the body, the central nervous system. That's why I was like, okay, I'm going to throw out those other ones. Those are great. We're going to get those in training anyway. But the spine seems to be neglected in a lot of high performance people and just even just the layperson who's training. We all have heard of the squat. We all have heard of calf raises. We all have heard of presses and pulls, but everybody kind of forgets that the spine is maybe the most intricate joint area of the body. And so that's how I came up with it. It is for everybody, in varying degrees. So kids start it. They do it the best. Like infants start it, right? They're laying on their stomachs in extension with this massive weight on their spine, and their head is proportionate to their body. It's enormous. Yeah. So they're holding up this massive amount of weight, and they'll stay prone like that, and they'll brace and they'll crawl and they'll climb. So they kind of focus on their spine before we even know what we're doing. So if it's good for babies, it's got to be good for the antithesis of the baby, which is we can learn a lot from the baby as we age and we become, experienced adults. So, but some of the moves, as she may have found, might be tough to do standing up. So I've done them in airplane seats, as everybody's seen on my videos. I've had some people who are immobile with lower body stuff, but they could do them sitting up. I've had people do them laying in beds. That's how Joe Pilates came up with the reformer. He created pulleys and strings and system springs to put onto hospital beds. And so people were exercising in hospital beds. Now we put them as reformers in Pilates classes. I'm like, you guys are just doing a hospital bed workout. Yeah. You realize that? And so it's like, okay, but Pilates was a savage. So again, even just laying in a bed, you can get full range of motion of the spine and address some of that. As it gets better, it'll improve. So that's those two questions. Now, the dizziness, I personally have experienced on some occasions, and I have had a lot of clients. My theories are, I have had a lot of clients go through that. My theories are, well, one, it will improve. It'll improve. Two, there's two things. One, if it's new information to joints that have been stagnant for a while, and you're kind of waking those up, well, that waking up is a bunch of messages from the joint flooding to the brain that maybe haven't been called in a while. And so that information could be a lot to take in, and it just might be overwhelming to the system at that time. It's not something to be afraid of. It's just something to, again, feel, take in, continue to go. Don't push yourself to the point to where you're scared for your health or your safety, but listen to that, see the number of times it takes or the amount of stimulus it takes to create that. Keep going, keep your breathing steady, try to keep pressure kind of stable, not so spiked. And then another thing, so one, just new joints moving to new ranges of motion as a stimulus. And the other is, and this happens to me, I think, more, and I just had an experience with it. I don't know if you saw me jumping off the wall onto the sand the other day. Okay. Well, my phone didn't record, and I was pissed because I went through a lot to do them. I was trying to do 360s. Yeah. I was trying to jump and do a 360. So I could go left to my left and land. No problem. I did about 4. When I would go right, my body would bow into extension, and I'd hit on my heels and I'd fall backwards. So I did it about 30, 35 times, and I couldn't get it that day. I had a hard time rotating right. So I would think that there's a lot of things. That's what I was going to say. I did #Zoolander, man. I had Blue Magnum or whatever it is, and I couldn't turn to the one direction, right? I'm a runaway model in my former life. But so it's vestibular, right? Like, so it's combination of the vestibular system, which is it plays into eyes and ears and smell. It's all the senses, right? It's one of the 6 senses. So I think that depending on my up and down, I don't have a problem with. My side to side, well, I don't have a problem with when I'm on this plane. This one, no problem. But when I spin, I lose it. Like those Tibetan rights. Do you ever see those Tibetan rights that those guys were doing? Those 5 rights? No. And they'd spin one way, spin the other way. It really disturbs me to spin. Like, it really throws me off. So clearly it's something that I should be able to do. Kids are spinning all the time, right, to stimulate their vestibular system. So in response to your mom's question, I think it could be too vestibular system waking up. It's part of training. Only with that system, instead of like a burning tired muscle, you're getting like dizziness and euphoria kind of. So I think all great things. I think it's normal. I don't think it's pathological at all, but not to say don't rule anything out. Always listen to your body, but continue to go, continue to do it, and you should see that your reps will increase without the fallout of dizziness or nausea or anything like that, but completely normal in my opinion.
Look, that is a great answer to a 3-pronged question, so I'm sure Mum will be stoked with that. And it opens up a lot more questions that I have for you.
Yeah.
But guys, if you haven't already and you don't know what the 8 spinal hygiene movements are, or 7? 8.
Seven.
Okay, 7.
Yeah.
I urge you to pause this, go to YouTube, type in spinal hygiene. There's a few variations, or just go to Dr. Tommy John's Instagram and then come back, because the next questions I have will go on from there. And the first would be, I want to go back to it took you 2.5 hours to move every joint in the body 100 times. Are we talking like, so for the wrists, straight rotations, or are we talking plantarflexion, dorsiflexion, supination, pronation, circles?
Right. So if it's wrists, it was pronation, supination, extension, flexion, and then ulnar deviation. Okay. Those were the only ones of that. A circle is a great one, but as far as an orthopedic test was concerned, that wasn't it. Do you know what I mean? And it would go down to the toes, the ankles, the knee, the hip, lumbar spine, thoracic spine, cervical spine, shoulder, elbow, wrist, fingers. And I would just roll through those. I was trying to learn them to pass the test, but I also was getting a pretty kick-ass workout. And the spine one, though, spoke to me. I'm like, and it modified it a little bit, right? I've added RDLs into one of them, and then I turned it into rollings and then single leg RDLs. And I'm like, 3 cervicals, 3 planes, full spine, 3 planes, mop up with cross crawl Supermans. There's your 7. Dude, that'll take you to the promised land. Like, if you stay consistent with that and the stimulus is great enough, and I talked about it in my podcast on spinal hygiene, which was released this Wednesday. I've tested it. I don't like reading tests, right? I don't like reading research because it just doesn't make sense to me unless I have this ongoing case study called my practice, like what I'm doing with myself and then what I see with clients as well. And, I tested the spinal hygiene only in of itself. So I isolated everything else, no other training stimulus, other than walking to and from my car, but nothing set. I tested with like a 1-legged squat, a push-up, scap, and maybe a glute ham for time. And I did it before, and then I did spinal hygiene moves for 6 months, 5 minutes each, and then tested afterwards. And my numbers like skyrocketed. So it was like, I just used those 6 spine moves. Everything benefited. A split squat, a posterior chain move, glute ham, a press and a hang, a pull. Whoa. So stimulating the body in any capacity has crossover if it's appropriate, right? Like it'll cross over into everything. And so I was like, wow, what if we threw this in with some pulls, some deadlifts, some split squat stuff, some different things. And we accentuated those. It almost like allows those to be better is what I saw. You know what I mean?
And look, I can attest that because what I think I've known of you for quite some time. But when I first learned about spinal hygiene or checked it out was when you were on Joel's podcast, Just Fly. And we've had Joel on.
Oh, yeah.
Great guy. Really good show.
Absolutely.
And I started it because I'd blown my back out a few times this year, just training quite hard.
Sure.
I do a lot of jumping and athletic work, so run a bit of track. And my back felt great. And what really helped me with it was when I started overhead pressing a couple of months ago, tweaked my neck a bit. And I think I might have listened to one of your shows just when you started your podcast. I was like, you know what? I'm going to move this 200 times within range that's not painful. And it got better, I reckon, in half the time. Like, when you get whiplash or you tweak your neck. So my next question would be, what are your recommendations for like those soft tissue muscles? Example, back spasm, like your generic back spasm. I know there's a million ways people can do it. We've all done it. Or like tweaking your neck. What's your sort of return to practice protocol?
So that's pretty awesome. And I love hearing stories like that because then I'll tell people in my office. Do you know what I mean? Like, listen, this guy's had a neck spasm, and those don't feel good, right? The neck ones are the scariest of all, because I get those sometimes where it locks up and you're done for. And there's more voices in those neck muscles yelling in the brain at the status of them versus like a quad or a glute, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I almost have a headache. I'm like depressed. What's going on? I'm irritable. So I love that you just like went through that, and that's a great testimonial. So it depends, right? It's like, as soon as there's some sort of communication from the body that something needs to change, and we want to go right away into that, feeling that. So depending on the severity of the injury, the severity of what we've got going on, I've had people, including myself, colleagues, a buddy of mine, Vladimir Traguz, he's into numbers and weight, and he knows he's obsessive about it, and he has a problem. And his body will tell him when he's doing too much, and it throws him into a lockdown. He's 6'9".
Jeez.
And so his back will go, and it goes, and it throws him into an incapacitated lockdown. Like everybody would be in hospitals with shots and wheelchairs, kind of a lockdown. So he stays present with it. He lays on the ground, on his back, knees bent, and he just starts breathing. And he starts to see what around his pelvis or what around the back he can move. And he starts to connect with the injury, not block the pain, but be present with the pain. And he does it 200 to 300 times. Those numbers are good, like volume of that. So whatever you've got spasming, you want to connect with it first. You want to feel it. And then you want to find a range of motion that doesn't increase the symptomatology. And it wants to be in mass volume. I just say 300. It's not a rule. It could be 1,000. You know what I mean? It could be 100. It really is their interpretation of that, right? Like, I just like a 300 is just, it's a rep a second, 5 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes time, right? But you need enough volume to assure the brain that what's going on, it's okay. Like, we're starting the healing process right now. It starts right now. We're not going to let this calm down and then deal with it in 3 weeks. No, healing starts right now in the face of pain. I love how people are like, pain or healing takes time. Pain management doesn't. And then they have all these pain management things. And it's like, wait, pain is healing. Why are we trying to block this? So,
and it is hard
depending on
to convince people of that because, like, and for me, I'm just a personal trainer. I don't know what the qualifications are over there. So the seniority and authority of physios, chiros, doctors over here obviously outweighs mine, as it should. They've studied a lot longer. They're probably a lot smarter. So it's hard when my clients are going through things like this to be like, look, this should help. But then they're like, oh, my physio says X, or they said just rest it, mobilize it. And I know a lot of people listening are probably the same. And of course, there's clients that are bought into you. They want to move and they want to do the best they can by their body, and it feels good for them to move. But how do you convince someone or show to someone that this is the way? And sorry to sidetrack you there.
No, that's hard. It's a leap of faith, right? Because one, I'm one voice. I got a kid right now. Everybody in his life, his tennis coach, his physio, his trainer outside of all the doctor, like if anything happens, they're saying the exact opposite of what I'm doing. And they've all bought in. What's cool is that I know I'm delivering in a really healthful way if they're like, when they say these words, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just, you can't refute that, man. And I'll ask, like, your body is telling you something. Does it make sense to try to instantaneously quiet it down and feel better and try to trick it out? Does that make sense? So I try to draw the line to the connection of, I try to make sense out of what's going on because it's scary to be in pain. It's scary to have symptoms. It's psychologically disturbing. And when we're scared, our faith is being checked and it almost goes away, including me. This is somebody who's gone through the fire with this. When I get injured or I'm sick, I start doubting what I'm doing. It's just human. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. Sit with this. My body's telling me something right now. What is it doing? It's making total sense out of this. Okay. So this is what's hurting. This is what feels. Okay. So if that, all right. And you just start to connect with self, and everyone's calling it mindfulness now, right? Like that's the new buzzword. I just feel that when you deliver, if you try to connect the dots, the making sense will trump their consistency of like blasphemy. You know what I mean? Like out there's so many voices saying all this stuff, and I'll say, okay, there's 1,000 of them saying all this. I just stated the opposite. Which one makes sense? It doesn't, you know what I mean? And they're like, well, this one, it just makes sense. And then finally, usually you're getting people who don't have an injury for the first time. It's repeated. So then they're with you, or we've got them coming in, and they love listing all the people that they have in their corner for their health and their disease and all this. They got this trainer, this acupuncture, this chiro, this all these things, right? These oils, this CBD, all this stuff. But they're presenting to you with a problem. So I say, is it working?
Yeah, that's true.
Just state it. Like, is it working? And they laugh, and they're like, well, but they're really nice people. And I'm like, I'm not attacking their character. I'm just stating what they're selling, what their product. Is it working for you? Because it might work for some. And if it does, that's so awesome. Like, that's great. Keep doing till it doesn't work anymore. But I need them to admit on day one, wow, what I've been doing isn't working. And this is my back pain. This isn't the first time I've had back pain. No, and you'll get them too. They've had stuff from way long time ago. And it's like, okay, let's just try to do this, here's why. And then they're like, well, that makes sense. And now you've kind of like got them believing in a kind of believing in themselves again is really what it is, right? And I tell people this on day one, the best treatment or approach in performance and healing is the one you believe in.
Very true.
Done. If you come into my office and we have a discussion and we sit down, and you can't believe what I'm telling you, not a place for you. And I'll try to find you the next best place. But do not continue unless you believe in it. And a lot of people don't ask those questions on the outside to believe in those approaches. They're just like, I was told to do this. It's a check the box kind of a thing, right? Check. Did it work? More times than not, it's not going to. So that's my approach, but it's a battle for sure.
It's something I try and trickle into clients' programming. Like all my clients, pretty much I'd say 95% of them will start their session with a dead hang, which I love. The hip circles I like, but again, we've only got 45 minutes to an hour together. And of course, they might come to me to get their heart rate up, to build strength, which all this stuff does.
Of course.
So it's about, I find, trickling it through their session as part of like a warm up or a cool down. And so much so like clients have come to me from other trainers with neck pain, and they're like, look, it's just something I just deal with. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, this stuff may help. And then no one really notices when you feel good, because it's just how you should feel all the time. And then I'm like, hey, how's your neck? And they're like, you know what, it's actually been really good. And I'm like, oh, there you go. Well, it must be something we've done. But so it's interesting discussing.
That's a huge point. Yeah. That's a huge point you said, and I just want to make a quick point, because we love focusing on the bad, right? Like I asked somebody to come in, hey, move your bad wrist today. He wanted to show me how bad it was. He didn't want to show me how good it could move. Do you know what I mean? We have two choices on something, and it was like, wait, I'm not even going to talk about who you were prior to when you came in. Let's focus on like the good. And you just said it, like we never really pay attention when we're feeling good. What if we kind of sat with ourselves and showed gratitude with, dude, I feel awesome today. You know, or I feel great that I got to get out of my car, get out of bed. I got to eat food. I got to do this stuff. I try to get everybody to start noticing, even when they're at their worst or at their most adaptive, like they're really struggling with stuff. Wait, let's celebrate some of these things that you got going on that are really awesome. Not denial, but just some of the good stuff, you know, and then that outlook seems to change.
And that's when it's even hard. And I'm sure you get clients come in that are the same. They haven't felt good, and it's the norm, and it's their life. Like they're sleep deprived, always run down with like some sort of cold. And I find those are the people that can be tricky to convert initially, because they're so used to feeling like shit, and they've got a grim outlook. it's probably hard for them even to walk through the door. So yeah, it's just interesting, and it's hard for them to look what is the good side and feel good and focus on that when there's a lot of negative.
Right.
But I've got, again, so many more questions. Next, I want to move to tendons. So we've spoken about joints.
Yeah.
ISOs have been a hot topic for conversation on this show for quite some time. Something, again, you're very well versed in. So let's say we get a tendon injury, tendinopathy. We can talk about Achilles, I guess. Are you still taking the joint range through motion, or is it something you're more focusing on ISO? Is there rest involved? What's your protocol there with tendons?
So what I love is the only time I'll do rest really is if it initially happens. I like letting the person sit, no stimulus, no cover-ups, no lasers, no taping, no anything. Just let it chill out. It's bleeding technically, or if there's damage, there's some initial healing going on. Just let it process for about 2 days. Just don't do anything. Just let it be. Be present with it. If you feel like moving it, you can, but it doesn't have to be anything really regimented, right? Just let it be. Then regardless of what the tissue is, as soon as that 2-day window's over, all right, we're going for it. Here's what I love with the ISOs. There's so much neurological connection and integration, and that's one of the biggest problems with injury. Pain is very easy to resolve. If we just went into a cave with every injury and we lived with wolves, in 3 weeks, we're going to come out with no pain. You know what I mean? We don't have to do anything, really. The pain's going to go away. But the biggest problem is the imprinting on the nervous system and cells with every injury and insult, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and physically, is we have PTSD. We have a memory on that nervous system of that event. And emotional is the biggest bitch of them all. It's like the beast. If you've had a death or a divorce or a breakup and something knocked you, and you know what I'm talking about. All of us have had gut-wrenching stuff. Dude, those are the things that we got to be present with and work on for the long haul, because they take so much. If all injuries need a level of stimulus greater than the stimulus that caused the injury in the first place, think about that now. And I lost a brother. I've had massive breakups because I'm kind of sensitive. They might have been like simple breakups, but to me they were bombs, right? I mean, it's whatever. And we could say whatever we want with our parents or whatever we've gone through, right? So I've got some stuff I got to process. It's no different with an Achilles, or it's no different with an ACL. Whatever that injury was that you sustained, the greatest way to bring in a stimulus to break that pattern, because what does the body want to do? It wants to compensate and survive that moment with a limp or a new pattern, right? An altered. If you lost your leg, you're not just going to give up. Your body's going to go whoop, all to the left, and it's going to figure out how to survive, because its job is to survive till the last second of breath. It doesn't know any better. Like that, it just knows to adapt and survive and keep it going. That's it. So with something small, not a lost limb, but an Achilles insult or a knee insult or ankle insult or whatever. I love the ISOs because we can stimulate this life or death scenario in the presence of fresh injury and not create more unadapted damage. Like we're creating damage ultimately, right? In training, like ultimately we're just controlled damage the system and then it levels up. But in that way, what I find with the ISOs is the body will just quit. It'll just stop before any further problems will occur. And those compensatory patterns will show up in real time. You'll be able to spot them, because how you start is not how you finish. When you start to fatigue, you'll see, holy crap, look at your knee bend, look at your hip bend. Wow, we're just doing a calf raise. But you tried to lock those out, and your brain just bent them into a limp pattern. So we can make those corrections real time. We can stimulate 2 days after a horrific injury. This is uncanny. This is crazy. Nobody else is enabling this out there. Now, in the presence of pain, because everybody's going to have pain. Remember I said it's not a really good marker. It's going to be there. It's okay. But in the presence of that, we can bring in this healing performance approach that when all the pain subsides in all populations doing whatever, our people, you and I and our clients, old, young, men, women, doesn't matter, at the 3-week, 4-week mark are neurologically integrated, they're stronger, their range of motion is massive, and they're mentally, they just leveled up. So now everyone else is starting from scratch. This is what the problem with PT is. PT's 4 methods, 4 ways is first, reduce pain and inflammation. That's why they ice and give drugs right away, or laser and taping and all this stuff. It's like, wait, okay, so that's lower pain, which is healing, lower inflammation, which is healing. That's their step number 1. That's what they're taught. Step 2, I think it's restore passive range of motion first. So they'll take somebody through passive range of motion, which I don't get, just active all the time, right? There was no, just be active if you can. If you're not paralyzed,
be active.
And then 3, I think it's strength first, and then 4 is like functional strength or something. That I get those last 2 kind of mixed up because it doesn't matter. But what I tell people is we're hitting all 4 of those in every single session. Part of the ISOs is addressing all of those in one shot, where PT does it where we lower pain and inflammation, and then we do passive range of motion. And then it's like, what the hell have you been doing for the last 3 weeks or a month?
Yeah.
No wonder you're worse than you were, because then their goal is to get you to 80% of the person you were before your injury. 80% of that person is worse than you were if you never came in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I feel if you do it right with every injury, it's a wake-up call, and we should level up. With every insult, we should level up. With every time we get our heart broken, we should level up. With every time we have a bad instance that everyone's like, oh, woe was me, bad luck, whatever. Dude, if we evolve, we should level up. We should level up. So I love the ISOs in that manner, but that's not to say that I only do the ISOs. And Joel will attest to this as well. We talked about it on my show. It was with an ISO, it's been said, I don't know how to test this, so I don't know, that it's 13 to 15 hertz like of oscillations per second when you're in that position, right? So whoever tested that, it seems to make sense. I know it's a lot, right? So if we hold something for 3 minutes, 13 to 15 back and forths per second for 3 minutes.
That's a lot.
That's pretty gnarly.
But 3 minutes, that's hard work. Like most people, even like the dead hang 3 minutes, even a calf raise double leg 3 minutes will get challenging. I'd say that's the easiest one to do.
Dude, it's a beast, as it should be, right? Like it's a beast, and it brings in all systems, really, like all levels, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and then physical is like the last thing. But I try to mimic, because some people just don't have the mental capacity yet to handle the ISOs. Does that make sense? And I won't push a square peg in a round hole. There's no one way, not for anybody. Like, I just don't like that. But I do that on day 1. I'll get an idea of who I'm dealing with and what they can tolerate. And I have them go, where maybe they hold something for 20 seconds. It wasn't really a strength issue. It was just so much information. They're just piping hot, and their pail's full with all this other stuff, sympathetic dominant. They just psychologically couldn't handle it. Do you know what I mean? But so then a way that I will meet them is, okay, I don't tell them this, but I'm just making observations, and maybe we have a discussion about it later. I'll go with high volume repetitions, because if an ISO of 3 minutes is thousands of reps, what if I did 300 to 500 reps, right, with that person, and they just stayed present with it? And now all of a sudden we do 10 days or 2 weeks of that, and then you revisit the ISO. They've emptied their pail. They can take a little more, and now they put it all together. Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting.
And so that's where I find, yeah.
For example, on a ISO lunge, you'll get them to just do reps and reps and reps and reps of a lunge over the straight hold.
Yeah, of a lunge or a single leg, like a Bulgarian split squat, up and down. You know what I mean? Where they're going kind of up and down like that. Marching. Like really any kind of rep of the hip, knee, and ankle, right? Just a bunch, not necessarily the lunge itself, because it all crosses over if it's training. That's why I find, like, if training is training, you can not do an exercise stimulate like crazy in these other realms, come back to it having not done it. Just like I said, the spinal hygiene, I didn't do any one-legged, I didn't do any hangs or presses, but the entire system was stimulated through movement. And as long as you know how to do it, and it's not some complicated, like some big yoga move where we're trying to, like, I don't even know what you're doing. I could do it, I just don't know. And assuming it's something not complicated and you have to learn it, you'll rock it. Yeah. They'll improve across the board. That's why you can get better at lunging without even lunging. If the stimulus is right.
There's definitely always something to be done with training. Like whether you're in a cast or whatever, there's always something to be done with another part of the body. Unless you're in a full body cast, but even then, you can probably still open and close your jaw.
Jaw and eyes.
Yeah, that's true. Move around.
Right?
Something, again, this is something I've struggled with a lot personally. I think I've had an os trigonum removed from my right ankle, and I've always struggled with a bit of dysfunction in my big toe. And it's something I am really trying to address now. My fiance is a podiatrist, and she's always on me about it, trying to get me to mobilize, move the joint as much as I can. And I am a bit of a sucker for fashion and a good shoe, which I know you're going to not like. So I try and do my best. So let's talk through the big toe and why you think it's so important. And look, I get around barefoot as much as I can. And I always do my sprint drills before I go to play. So give it to me. And I'm honest. You can always get honesty from me.
Dude, whatever, man. Yeah. I got some fry boots. I got 2 pairs of fry boots at home. I got some other things.
No, mine are joggers. Look, the ones I have today probably aren't too bad.
No,
so
dude, they're fine.
The toe box not too bad.
Wait, I thought they were like fashion shoes.
No,
like
I'm talking joggers. So I love high-end sneakers, all that sort of stuff. So it's not boots or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, I'll have them out, but I have an occasion I wear them once every blue moon.
All right, dude, that's not extreme. I'm talking I thought you were talking like this pointed toe.
Oh, mate, I'm not getting around in high heels. I might be.
I'm like, wait a second, bro. We got to see these things, man. Okay, wait. So the importance of the big toe and
what we can do to help it.
Yeah, so it's huge, right? It's so important. And when I stress the importance of it, it doesn't mean we're SOL if something happens to it. If it gets locked up or if it starts to get splinted or there's bunion type things or there's deviation of it or you get turf toe or sand toe or whichever way it folds. And
arthritis in the big toe. That's what an MRI said for me.
Arthritis of the big toe. And even if it's been fused, I've had clients who have some surgeon said to fuse it. And I was like, okay, but let's just acknowledge what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So just like any other joint, gosh, man. I mean, next to the spine, I'd go to like the toe. The big toe would be like next most important, maybe, since we're bipeds, right? Like we're bipeds and we're on this. Like what's cool about the foot, and it's so awesome your wife does what she does. If you look at like the surface area of the feet and you like measured it, right? And whatever the square inches of, if you built a wooden human propped up on the square footage of your feet, you could blow it over with a breath. But I can't blow you over. Do you know what I mean? And I could come and try to truck you and you're going to poof. And it's like the power the feet have are so unbelievable when you think about how small the square footage is. And that's the critical nature that we have to look at, right? Like look at that tiny bit, but massive nerve innervation, 4 layers of muscles. Damn. The only area of the body where there's layers of muscle like that's the back. Like, okay, that's pretty big. So now, just like she said, any chance you get to move it, do it. Now, what I love is we don't need apparatus and we don't need a special place to do this stuff. Do you know what I mean? That's what I love about it. So let's say this is me, my foot on the ground, and you just picking your big toe up off the ground in Dorsey type flexion, right? Leave the other 4 down there and just pull that thing up. I love it. I love up more than plantar. Okay. I love up more than plantar because we lose up more than we lose down in most falls of elderly. When they walk, they don't dorsiflex when their foot leaves the ground and their toe catches the ground and they fall, break a hip, they're in the hospital, pneumonia, death. Cause of death, pneumonia. Cause of death, fall.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, anytime you can bring that toe up, I love, because you're eccentrically contracting the opposite. And that's always good. Like, you're basically stretching the plantar fascia, right? Just by bringing that big toe up. And you might notice or feel some bruising on that ball as you do it. That's awesome. That's awesome. So as much as you can do that, and listen to this, as difficult as it is, it's going to be more neurologically difficult initially. And then after a while, it'll, like, range of motion may be slight. But like I said in many podcasts and videos, 2 centimeters is where we're at in 2019, December 13th, Friday the 13th, baby. In 2 weeks, 2 months, it's 4 centimeters. Do you know what I mean? And in a year, it's back to full. And since this has been happening for, 30 years, right? A year to reverse 30 years of habit, I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good ratio. I have seen the importance of it. People who have had a history, first thing I ask when they come in, I take an injury history and I start at the feet. And everybody will give me this extensive injury history of their feet. And almost certainly when they come in, they got shoulder, elbow, hip, back, knee. And it didn't start as shoulder, elbow, hip, back, knee. It initiated because a lot of the causes of injuries are unresolved previous injuries, because we've measured success through no pain. Right? So if we have no pain, that's fine. I deal with that because there's no pain with it. It just moved around, though. It moved up to the knee joint, or it moved to the back. It moved to the shoulder, right? It's like the toddler that pushes his vegetables all over the plate and says he's done. The current model just, like, pushes injuries around the body, and they just kind of go. And it's like, well, wait a second. It all kind of started at the feet is where I go first. So I joke, you came in with a torn ligament in your elbow, but you left with feet and hamstrings, like strong feet and hamstrings, right? So it's regardless of the injury, I would always start at the big toe or the foot. And then understand too, that big toe, foot, ankle complex, the calf, is the way that the hips, the glute, and the hamstrings, it's the way that those muscles express themselves. They express through the foot, just like our shoulder expresses through our hand. So as much as you're moving big toe, it's just as much to connect the foot to the hip again. You know what I mean? That's why I love the standing on one leg, the single leg stuff, as much as we can do, because when you have a bare foot and you stand somebody on that foot, their brain will start to restore their arch. You'll see their feet calibrating in, right? You'll see all this stuff going on that you're not consciously doing. Like, the brain's just going into automation. I feel that's something we do that's a non-negotiable in my office as well. Couple things with the big toe as well. Most people who have had turf toe, sand toe, toe insult, arthritis to the toe, what just trauma, right? And it's limited. The brain will lock it down and limit the range of motion to protect it. It's okay, but you got to think what's going on up the system. Almost 100% of big toe people I've seen either endure or have had labral tears in the hip.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not a thing. I'm just like, always labral tears in the hip. Now here's the crazy part about hip labrum tears. Like 70%, I guess somebody said, or a doctor said, of athletes have labral tears in the hip, but they don't know because we're just so strong around it, right? Most people are playing with some sort of tear in the labrum of the hip. And the ones that I've seen who have had them, I'll go in and they have this super lockdown big toe, or they've had massive, massive, massive problems with it before. So just stressing the importance of trying to increase the movement of it, and then trying to reintegrate the hip muscle, mainly the glute, back to that big toe as you go through that process all together.
Well, that's saying David Gray. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's been on our show. He's been on Joe's show. He does a lot of that sort of stuff. I think that's the main part of his practice as well, from a slightly different angle than what you're discussing. But yeah, it's all about sort of that connection through the foot into the hips. It's great stuff. And like I said, Angus and myself and a lot of our listeners are big buyers of that.
There are two more things I just want to add to the big toe. So I haven't had the pleasure of going through any big toe injuries, but I also am trying to keep it as alive as I can, right? Like keep it as integrated as I can. So I don't know if you saw the other day, I was doing planks, just a push up at the top, toe. Right? And I was on my big toe. It was just a way to facilitate that connection with my hands and shoulders. Like, why not transfer energy through starting at the big toe? I mean, it's more comfortable to put all of them down, right? But I'm like,
why not?
I don't know. Let's see this. Yeah. And then another thing. Wait, that would hurt?
For sure.
What if you folded them under and you went on the top of your big toe with pronated ankles?
Let me tell you. Hold on, everyone. I'll get into.
Do you know what I mean?
Right? Yeah, I know. Give me a moment.
You got to fold it way under. Yeah.
Look, it's definitely not comfortable, but there's no pain.
Oh, that's beautiful. So now what's happening? You're still integrating. We're not causing pain because you don't want to cause symptom pain increase while we're going through this. But now you're just eccentrically contracting the dorsey part, right? And you can stimulate that. And then maybe that brings in so much blood and nervous system integration that maybe it frees up, right?
Look, it's when I say it's painful, it's cool. Like it's an annoying pain to start with. Like at the moment, going into iso lunges barefoot, so not the Bulgarian version, that is like, it'll be my big toe. I'm like, that's way more uncomfortable than my quad or my front leg is because I've got the heel off the ground.
That's where most of those people who have had those big toe problems, it's real hard to lunge them because when the back foot is there and it's all just jammed onto that big toe. So it's one of those things that either will get really good at the other stuff, single leg, the toe, anytime you do single leg calf or double calf, like really go to the inverted side and force that big toe to like drive into the ground and start to become alive again. And then, but no, we couldn't do any jumps with those guys and girls, you know, no plyos or anything else, right?
Probably explains why my most recent thing is with a perineal tendinopathy or issues through that.
Right? Same side. That would make sense, right? Yeah, I just think any way you can start to just continue. Some people will go, I've messed around with this. It just seems, I feel like we get these little things when we stand on one leg or we bring ourselves to failure in those other moves, like bringing the big toe and trying to move it out. You know what I mean? Like I've stared at my foot and tried to do that. And I'm like, when in development did I ever do that? You know, and I just don't, well, I don't know. We crawled and we just stood and we used and we jumped and we climbed and we jumped and we landed and we rolled. I just think with those basic generals over the course of time, those intricacies that come to the finer, I think those get taken care of to provide some of those in volume, like if enough stimulus is there. That's what I found. If I were you, just single leg stuff, holding, single leg RDLs, single leg straight leg raise, 3-way hip circles, standing leg curls, but massive amounts, 3-4 times a day, you know? That would get that guy dialed in, especially with the perineal stuff going on now.
Well, look, I jogged barefoot yesterday for the first time in 2 weeks, and it felt good, and I feel good today. So,
heck yeah. That's huge.
And I've actually got a consult with David Gray as well this week. But again, perks to having a good podiatrist fiance.
Dude, done. That's perfect. That's in-house.
In-house. Look, I got to say, I'm at the bottom of her care list right now, but I'm still thankful for her time. Anyway,
It's like Seinfeld. Seinfeld dated the massage therapist, and she would never massage him.
One of my favorite episodes. Mate, you're talking to probably one of the biggest. On a side note, have you read Seinfeld yet?
No.
Got to. As a Seinfeld fan, I tell everyone this. It's a book about how Seinfeld's still relevant today. It's honestly the best thing you'll read this year. I guarantee you, this is Seinfeld fan.
I'm so grateful that you just said that because people are forgetting. I'm running into more people that don't get my reference. And when you find somebody, I'm like,
that's me. So
let's go.
I was in New York at Christmas last year, and I had to do Kramer's reality tour of New York. And Beck and the couple we're all huge Seinfeld fans. I've read the Seinfeldia book twice. Like I've seen every episode. But if everyone is ever in New York, you need to book in advance. He only does it every second Sunday. Do it. Kramer's
No
reality
way.
tour. Yeah, you got to get up to New York and do it.
Done.
As a Seinfeld, they take you to the super Nazi place as well. I had the Mulligatawny.
Oh, the Mulligatawny.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
Super Nazi.
Anyway, let's continue on this trend. There's some great information there for our listeners, and guys, of course, check out Tommy's podcast as well. He's always putting out really good stuff. Really enjoying that. But we got to go to what our show's famous for, and that is, who are your 5 favorite athletes of all time?
Oh man, you told me to think of this ahead of time. I was all right.
You know what? I think you might have emailed them to me. I can pull them up if you want. Let me just check our email.
See if I did. I don't think I did.
Okay.
Because I think you posed them to me, and I'm like, dude, these questions are huge.
Yeah.
You're going to get me in real-time stress right now.
Yeah.
I'm having a sympathetic reaction, baby.
All right. No, I don't think I did. Anyway, look, there you go. So you're on the spot now.
So first, all right, I got to say Tommy John, the baseball player. It's one of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball. He pitched 26 seasons. He's the 3rd longest career in the history of baseball. 288 wins, 4 World Series, 4 All-Star. And he had this surgery, this ligament transplant with a tendon that had never been done before. His doctor, Dr. Job, an amazing man. It was a 1 in 110%, a 1 in 100 chance he's coming back. And that's all my dad needed. At the time, there were no MRIs, no anything. There's a chance. Do it. I'm going to figure out the rest. And he figured out the rest and pitched another 14 seasons after that surgery.
That's crazy.
And was his best ever. And he figured out how to come back from this thing that had never been done. So talk about a belief in somebody, in themselves. There's so many lessons to learn in his story. And I'm grateful that I'm lined with that there's parts of it, of him in me. The best parts I try to express the most. So he hands down is one of the greatest athletes I've ever come across, and I'd be a fan even if he wasn't my dad. If I'm over here, I'm just like, as a sports fan, a human athlete. That freaking dude, what he went through, don't even get me started.
Yeah, especially back then.
That's just crazy to me. It's just crazy to me to see psychologically what he went through. He had his first child was born 2 weeks after, or 3 days after the surgery. So he's 31 in the middle of his career, pitching well. He was 13-3, started to figure out how to get big league hitters out, has this experimental surgery, doesn't have any clue what he's going to do for a life. He has a kid on the way. And he decided to take this leap, knowing that his best shot is in himself. Like, give me a chance. I'm going to believe. He goes, you guys do what you do. I know what I'm going to do. I've just never, the confidence he had in himself. I wish we could all find that.
Definitely.
You know, like I almost try to get people, like, the confidence Tommy John had in himself in 1974, find that, because we've all got that power. He's number one. I gotta say, I'm a Tiger Woods fan.
Nice.
I'm outside of life, but I don't care. Like, I'm not starstruck by any human. Do you know what I mean? Because they're just a human being. Even if it was a former president or a movie star, I don't care, dude. Like, we're all just human beings, and we all have thoughts and feelings, and we fall down, and we get nervous, and we're flawed to hell. What he's done, I just love his approach to mastery in golf. I love how he's reinvented himself 3 or 4 times. You know, it's one of the ultimate adaptations to the times. Like, if the times are changing and his body's changing and the courses are changing, they're basically changing the courses around him, right? Like, he's just like, fine, I'm going to keep changing. He's changed his swing a number of times, and he still comes back to the top. And now throw in the back surgeries and the knee surgeries and throw in just what he's doing. I love the top 1% of the 1% who repeatedly do it. You know, the Tom Brady's, the Kobe's, the Jeters, the Tiger Woods. But Tiger, by far, golf is something very respectful. I respect because I participate in it. I think it's 2 extremes of, like, this ballistic, aggressive, almost like a freaking right hook that you're going to throw to just knock somebody out. And then you got to come back and you got to do something so fine, like put a model together in the same, like, instance. You know what I mean? You got to go. It's like two extremes of the nervous system. I can't even. We try to do. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but we'll deadlift or pick up something stimulating really heavy. Hold it for a certain amount of time, stimulate, and then try to do something real fine, like ping pong paddles or
juggle,
or like throw a dart or juggle, right? So it's like that crisscross between what the nervous system has to do and the control. So he just exemplifies that. And then in the face of being a superstar and under scrutiny of everybody, that's tremendous. There's a guy, and I got to put him into the athlete column because he was martial arts is highly athletic. I don't know his name, but I had a client at the time, and that client was telling me, because he loved the training, he loved the system, he loved the style and all this stuff. And he would tell me that this dude would train by punching trains.
Jesus.
He would stand
talking? I could probably figure it out.
I'll tell you where you're going to find it. It's going to be toughest humans in the world, because that's what it was under. It was under toughest humans in the world. And he might not even be number one. But this guy was recalling some of the stories that he had. He would stand in the snow and punch the side of a train to toughen up his knuckles.
God,
And so here's what else he would do. Well, what the hell is he doing that for? Well, he would get in the ring with bulls.
Yeah.
He would get in the ring with bulls.
So is he fighting bulls, or is he...
Dude, get this. He would fight a bull with his bare hands, and what he would do is he would side slip him and punch it in the temple.
I gotta find out.
And if he hit it square, he killed a bull.
So what era are we talking, do you reckon?
I mean, it's got to be black and white.
Yeah.
I mean, it's black and white, so I don't know, but it's toughest humans in the world. And his name is like Matsuzaki or
I'm gonna
Hiro.
Find this. Yeah.
Dude, and you look at his knuckles, he would have like golf ball size calcium deposits on his first two knuckles, and he would hit you with those two, and he'd knock out bulls, man. And it was like his hands were like catcher's mitts with these two lethal bones, but he would stand and punch trains. And it was like,
well, that's like, have you heard of El Kukui, Tony Ferguson? He's a 150. No. Okay, so he's a American or Mexican mixed martial arts fighter, and he kicks metal poles to strengthen his shins. But then he did trip over some wires and fucking break his shin in half or something before his last fight.
He?
So I think he might have gone a bit. The load management wasn't good there.
Right,
he's a guy you might be interested in following if you like that.
Okay, so that guy, I don't know what his name is.
I'll find out and I'll post it on our Instagram.
There was a woman, and she was, I love adversity. I love stories of adversity. And I think she swam. She was blind.
Yeah.
I think she did a story. She swam some great distance. She was blind, and it's one of the log jams of my books. And the details of it just fascinated me. We've come across a lot of people that complain about a lot. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, dude, these people are expressing this innate expression of limitless proportions with everything up against them. And if we found just a sliver of what these people are representing, I think we could find a better life. There's a better life somewhere in there. And I don't know her name, and I know the book somewhere in my flipping collection. But it's another one.
Yeah, nice. I like that.
Gosh, man. And then I could go like Josh Waitzkin, right? And The Art of Learning. I mean, that was kind of badass, like what he did. I gotta say though, see, this is tough. It's like, what's athlete? Is athlete sport, or is athlete just like, dude?
Look, it's up to whoever's talking. Really, it's up to you.
It's whatever, right? So listen to this. So have you seen Free Solo?
Yes, Alex Honnold.
So I gotta say, what that guy did, there's no room for failure.
Yeah, none.
He couldn't fail. And I just got goosebumps now thinking about it, because I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't even I can't comprehend his training. Like I'm saying, oh, stimulate greater than the environment's going to call for. His environment it has to be perfect. He has to throw a perfect game. He has to bowl a 300. He has to putt 18 hole. He has to get, he can't, and if he doesn't, he dies. It's like one of those, what he accomplished climbing El Cap. And then when you saw in Free Solo, he tried to have a relationship. And I think there's relationship, I think there's relationship learning we can go in there, that everything's an exchange of energy, right? And as much as we want to say that, a partner is great, and I'm all about that. Like, I think this world should be shared. I mean, I'm single now, but I think it's amazing when you share something with somebody. Like a croissant tastes so much better when you friggin' share.
Fuck, see, I disagree. I'm the worst food sharer of all time.
No, wait, I posted that and somebody said, you wouldn't share? And I'm like, no, I'm glad I'm single, because when it comes to food, but I would buy two. I would buy two. Yes.
See, I like better when I buy one for Beck and then I get the half she doesn't eat.
That's
so I have 1.5.
No. It's like, can I have some of your fries? No, but I'll buy you.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah, that's it. So, but I like the exchange, right? There's the sharing of the chewing of food. But there's like a reason to like try to get to the enlightened state. Like some of the most enlightened people are living in mountains, isolated, single. Is it possible to attain these great levels sharing energy with somebody, even though it's positive? And he experienced injuries with a relationship, and I love the relationship, but he was basically telling her, like, I have to sacrifice my relationship because I might die. You know what I mean? The single-minded focus, I've just never seen that laser focus he had. I'm just watching. It was like, what, 4 hours of something? It was like 4,000 movements of steps, and he had memorized it. And everyone's like, oh, he's got Asperger's or he's got autism. And it's like, maybe they're the norm. Yeah. And something's wrong with us. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they're the ones the aliens come to observe, and we're just these like goofballs, like trying to put it all together, but they figured something out. So that was just unbelievable to me.
What got me in that was when he was halfway up and there's the bit where you sort of got to transition and you can like walk across and there's someone camping there and he's just casually jogging past with no rope and he just waves at him and just keeps going.
That was it. I had to be, and I had that doc was recommended to me so many times by so many people, and I'm like, I think it's going to move me, and I'm not ready for it. You know what I mean? I had to like process this day and a lot for time, because when I sat down and watched it, it jacked me up. Like I emotionally was like taxed, and I was just like, not just shaking and nervous for him. I took in every ounce of him, and it was something that was tremendous.
If you like that, have you heard of Ross Edgley, the guy that swam around the United Kingdom?
No.
Okay, so if you liked that, you got to watch. It's all on YouTube. Just search Ross Edgley, and it took him 7 months, but he swam around the UK, 6 hours on the boat, 6 hours off with the tide, and his like tongue got calloused and fell out of his mouth, his neck.
No way.
So you like that? And this guy, every time he got out of the boat, he has the greatest personality because he'd be laughing, he'd be smiling. Ross Edgley, that's your guy. If you're into this sort of stuff, I love him.
Holy crap.
I've got to get him on the show, but it's the best. Like he released them in dispatches on YouTube as he was doing them, 10-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And I won't ruin it, but what he overcame and just like never didn't have a smile on his face.
That's the biggest part, right? Like being happy. Yeah. Isn't that what we all deserve? And that's just crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, so next question is, I hope you're a fan of the rap game, because it's who is a rapper you would have rap about you, and what would they say?
A rapper. Dude, first of all, in my mind, rap doesn't exist unless we go back, like old school rap. Like we got to get like, and this was like back when it was like Ice-T, Ice Cube, Public Enemy, NWA. Yeah. Dude, even Cypress Hill. I was listening to Cypress Hill on A1A.
Insane
back in the day.
Insane in the Brain.
And Dr. Dre and Snoop back in the day. But I'm a fan of Eminem, man. Nice. I think he would do something if he had some information on me. and what he could spin out of it and scat out of it, I think it'd be kind of tremendous. He has a lot of oomph and passion, and I think if we sat and he took in what I'm trying to do and how I'm just trying to, I might die tomorrow, but if I leave it a little better than it was when I came in, now go take that. And I will say this, so. I always say, and there's a podcast, I said the training lighting, the lighting in my gym or my facility, and why I train outside or there's Himalayan salt lamps in here is I'm always trying to train in the emotion of love and not rage.
Okay.
Right? Like that's just so. But again, on that, it's like, wait, that's soft. But when I'm in love or I feel what I think is love, I feel like I can jump a building. If I'm raging, I feel like I could like you feel heavier and like lower, but strong, but lower. But if I'm in love, I still feel strong, but I feel like I can friggin' fly, like that was and if you remember X-Men First Class.
Yes.
With when Professor X is trying to teach Magneto between serenity and rage, it was like right in between there, and you could see his Magneto was all rage because he saw his parents die, right? Like he's just rage, and that limited him. And then he found that place, and he was able to move that dish and do some pretty crazy stuff. So that is I try to train in that as much as I can, tap into that, not angry and not vengeful or rage, but like somewhere right in between where it's out of a place of love. Well, that's mostly my music now is what I got. And so I don't listen to a lot of Eminem now because it doesn't spark this loving emotion, but it gets me fired up. I feel like I could run through glass, but it's all right. But I will say this, back when I was in my benching days, because I was testing out benching, the old lie that no pitchers should bench press. And it was okay, I just took it because I heard it from somebody, right? We just take it. So I never benched in my college years, my professional years. And I was like, why not? It's a really good move if you do it well, and you're strong enough. Let's just mess around with it. So I started to go on a 6-month plan. Vladi got me he was taking me in as a client because he's really into presses and pulls and stuff like the Olympic stuff. And not that bench press, but it was just a bench press. So on my days where I was doing 1 rep maxes, I would pre-game. So I would hit it, and then I get 5-10 minutes of rest, and then I come back as long as that one was clean. And on those days, I'd play "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. Nice. And I don't know if it gets better than that, man.
That's the ultimate pump up song for you,
dude. That song and what it means, even the words, the words and what he's talking about, and that is I feel like that's inspirational, and you could go to an old a hospice center and play that, and those people would be "Yup," you know what I mean? I could do this.
Well, I gotta say, one of my mates was fighting in a mixed martial arts comp last night, and in between fights, they definitely played "Lose Yourself." But then I also did request "Party Bus" by Venga Boys, and they played that also. In between the main card fight, I don't think the fighters noticed. But the DJ was so great. Loose, and I was like, you know what? So this needs a bit of a light move.
Do it. Oh, that's classic, man.
All right, and then we got one more question before we get you out of here. I've enjoyed this episode so much. I mean, I really thank you for coming on. And it is, if you're on death row, what would your last meal be?
Oh, pizza. Dude, pizza. Hold on. Wait. And it can be flown in from anywhere, right?
You can have a few courses if you want. It's a meal.
Okay, so it's going to be... So here's what it's going to be. It's going to be an appetizer of these asparagus beef rolls from a Japanese steakhouse. Nice. It's like this tenderloin wrapped around asparagus with a toothpick, and it's teriyaki, sprinkled with sesame seeds. So you got to pull that in. That's my appetizer. My main course is a wood fire oven somewhere in Italy, I would think. That bubbly crust that's super light and super crispy, and it's a margarita pizza. Nice. So there's just dollops of mozzarella and really good sauce, just tomatoes pureed, right, with basil. But because the crust is so voluminous, I need a warm cup of authentic organic olive oil with fresh chopped garlic, Himalayan salt, and cracked pepper. So I could take the
crust.
So I could take the crust, and that's meal number 2. So that's entree number 2 is the crust in the oil. And then what I would have is dessert. A couple things. I'm a churro fan, so I like those cinnamon churros, like a warm churro. But then I'm also just a sucker for really good homemade organic ice cream.
Oh, nice.
I'm a vanilla guy because I feel like the simpler the taste, I'm able to pull out all the levels that vanilla brings rather than just this complicated kind of a thing. And there's a chance what I had for drink to wash all this down was I'm a root beer junkie.
Yeah, nice. And
do you know what nugget ice is?
No.
Okay. So there's support groups on Facebook for us. Okay. It's called Nugget Ice. It's that pebble ice that some sporting organizations will use it to wrap put bags on.
Yeah. I know.
It's that pebble ice. And the first time I ever saw the pebble ice, it was in Yankee Stadium. Okay. My dad would come in after hitting or taking ground balls, and there'd be like a soda machine in the locker room with gum, like original bazooka gum. I'm like, oh my God. And I would get this ice in these Gatorade cups and Coke, and it was the softest ice. It's like pillows for your teeth because I chew ice.
I'm the same.
So I would do it. Sonic has it. So, dude, there's a Scotsman ice maker. It's expensive to have in your house. It's like $3,000, but it puts out this nugget ice. I can't pull the trigger on that. Yeah. I'm not a baller. Yeah. I'm not. It's not. I'm just not there. And it's okay. One day. All right. Dude, I talked to the rep, and I'm like, yeah, how much for what's the smallest model you have? Like, I was thinking some mini model that sits under a bar or something. He's like, no, we have this big one. It pumps out in 24 hours, like 30 pounds. And I'm like,
you don't need that.
He's like, what do what do you host parties? What do you do? I'm like, dude, I'm a single guy who lives at the beach in like a bungalow. Yeah. Like, I don't have square. He's like, I mean, you could do it. And I'm like, dude, I'm not taken up. Like, no, it's okay. Well, I found out. Do you know what Sonic is? The eatery, the fast food eatery called Sonic?
No, we don't have them down here.
Okay. So it's drive up, but you can go in, but it's drive up and you order through the microphone. Yeah. And they come out on roller skates and hook your sandwich up to you.
I know off the spot, yeah.
Well, Sonic has crushed ice, that nugget ice. Well, here's what you can do. And I found this out. You pull up, you can order a 10-pound bag, and they'll roller skate it to your car for $3.
Gold.
And you have a 10-pound bag, and you bring it home. So that's what I do on the reg, and that saves me $3,000.
Yeah, true.
It's like get these.
I wonder in your lifetime if it'll catch up to how much the machine costs, though.
I've calculated it. It would take me like 15 years. Okay. So
it's a long-term investment.
Like I'm like, well. Yeah. I mean, it'll make sense, but I can't pull the trigger yet. I just don't feel it just yet.
I understand.
But listen, so there's Nugget Ice followers. There's like groups on Facebook that if you're on a road trip, you can contact these people. Hey, I'm on I-75 exit number. Is there a gas station or something? They're like, there's a Thornton's 3 miles ahead of you. Good luck, have fun. And when you walk into Thornton's gas station, it's like, we have Nugget Ice. And it's just this big draw. But I would have root beer over Nugget Ice. That's game, set, match for me. And there's a chance that vanilla ice cream makes it into the root beer.
I like that.
And I polish it off.
Mate, that's,
with the root beer float.
You're going out a happy man.
Dude, that's it. And maybe an espresso. I'm a coffee or espresso post dinner. Okay. I love it. I love that taste. I love that feeling. I like just sitting back and sipping a nice rich, bold coffee-based drink. I love that. Nice. So there, and then fry me. I'm out, man. Like just make sure the sponge is wet, and I'm out.
Well, that's a good answer. I like that. Very in depth, as you were to all the questions I asked. So yeah, last thing, Tommy, where can everyone find you? Obviously, you got your podcast, which is great. What you've got upcoming, just let the people know.
Yeah. And then I got one question for you. But what we got, so my Instagram, Dr. Tommy John, Dr. Tommy John. I have a Facebook business page, Dr. Tommy John. My website, drtommyjohn.com. You can find all my social links there. I do have a book out that I'm pretty proud of. It's geared towards youth sports and preventing injuries in youth sports, but it is by far not just isolated to youth and sports and injuries. It's a manual, a survival guide for everybody. So it's on my drtommyjohn.com page, or it's at don'tcutmykid.com is the landing page for the book. I'm pumped about this podcast because you experience this. I don't know anything about technology, so I have a guy helping me out.
Nice.
We're doing a good job with these, and it allows me to extrapolate and elaborate on a lot of topics that I just don't have the opportunity to in my office or on a news station. If they give you a 30-second soundbite, you can't get into everything. So we cover a bunch of topics on there, and I'm going to start having guests. I just got to figure out how the hell to record guests, and it might be something as simple as just doing a Skype like we're doing now.
Look, I can
just stripping the audio.
I can send you some videos on YouTube that help explain that. But Twitch is a good platform, and OBS. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. But yes, let me know.
Beautiful. No, I love it. So that's it. As far as what I got coming up, it's the same and the same. I'm just continuing to learn. If anybody has any questions about anything, by all means, DM me. Sometimes I don't get back right away, but then other times I'm jonesing for topics. And I love the back and forth, and I love when people are experimenting with the stuff that I've been and continue to do, and we're all learning off each other. So I'm down. I'm down for getting my eyes open to some stuff that I didn't previously know before, because I don't think we can ever stop learning.
Nice.
And then question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Do you know where my headband is from?
Oh. I'm going to say I saw something similar when I went to ninja school in Kyoto in 2017. So if I had to guess, I'm going to say there.
Okay, so listen, I'm a movie junkie.
Okay.
I don't watch TV, but I watch movies. Yep. I'm a movie freak. I'm a cinephile.
The Karate Kid.
This is one of the Boom.
Okay,
he's got
I
it.
only know that because someone put it in the chat. Someone put it. So thank you, Scratch Finger.
That's hilarious.
He was really feeling your breakup story. So I have watched the rebooted Karate Kid on YouTube when they're grown up on YouTube Premium. I do enjoy that. Wax on, wax off.
Oh, Cobra Kai?
Yeah, Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai is unbelievable,
That's really good.
dude.
That's
I binged both those seasons. Yeah, I can't wait.
Nice. Shout out to the subscribers.
Absolutely. I'm a junkie, and I found this authentic canvas Daniel LaRusso Miyagi Go Dojo headband, but I wear it only on Fridays.
Nice.
And so this podcast happened to land on a Friday, and I'm like, I wonder if he's going to have me on video, and I wonder if he'd be okay. I'm like, you know what? These guys seem rad.
Thank you.
I'm just going to wear it and see. And I love how you didn't even bring it up. You're just like, what's up,
you do you, and that's all that matters. You fucking live your life, and I love that. That's a beautiful way to end the show. And we promise our guests, we like to think the most important thing we can give to our guests and give to our audience is at least a laugh through some podcasts. We've had quite a few here, a lot of knowledge bombs.
Absolutely.
And hopefully some of this information can help you guys out. Dr. Tommy John, what an honor. I'm sure this won't be the last time. Hopefully next time in studio if you're ever down in Australia. But thank you for coming on.
Done. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.